Hello gaming community, today we delve into the world of OXENFREE II lost signals. When I really care about the character in the game, I stop going when they start spontaneous character conversations because I'm afraid I might cross some invisible line that will cause the more story critical dialogue to cancel it. What if I never hear the end of the story of Garrus told Lyra? This is unthinkable. While in the original 2016 OXENFREE I didn't dislike the chatty teenagers stranded on a spooky island, I never stopped to listen to their chatter. This was partly due to the fact that they returned to important topics after they were interrupted, with smooth digressions, as I said. It was mainly because they talked so much about so little that I never felt in danger of not hearing what I should have been interested in. If trains run every 5 minutes, you don't have to worry about missing one. OXENFREE II Lost Signals is an adult game, and that changes a lot. It's still the same game where you have to traverse a 2.5D haunted slice of the Pacific Northwest, clicking or holding down the navigation keys. It's not a platformer, while regularly turning your radio to the spooky radio station 102.1 FM that people talk nasty things. Something strange is happening in the town of Camena, and you have been hired to investigate anomalous radar signals by setting up transmitters in certain places in the nearby countryside. It's just that for once, the character messing around with what could be ghosts or time travelers, or could be both, depending on how the wavelength collapses, are less concerned about whether the girl thinks they're cool, though one of them is equally amused that the communications tower is named after someone named Richard Harden. One benefit of OXENFREE II, which is about adults, is that once it's released, the internet won't be full of middle-aged people speculating about whether it's an accurate depiction of how teenagers really talk. Another advantage is that the characters in the game are less likely to interrupt each other. The dialogue system was OXENFREE's most notable feature, mimicking the way children shouted at each other in movies like The Goonies. No one stopped chatting for you to decide which of the three answers to choose, and you never knew if the character Alex would wait for her friend to finish his speech, or immediately interrupt him to say something of his own. Combined with the fact that the answers quickly disappeared if you didn't choose one in time, the conversation turned into a manifold of tense decisions. This is how you feel as a teenager. Even if I didn't end up caring about the humans in the OXENFREE as much as any alien in Mass Effect, I ended up being interested in my own clumsy attempts to impress them. In OXENFREE II, the mature, if not always so mature protagonist Riley has more time to consider her options. She also interrupts people less often. In OXENFREE II, you can have a Sorkin-style conversations even when you're alone because you have a walkie-talkie and you have to wait for people to say "end of call" before it's your turn, because that's how they work. The walkie-talkie is an ingenious way to let you fill in the gaps of the silence. If you need to hear a friendly voice while climbing a rock, which works better now since Riley is less likely than Alex to press a button to move away from a wall of stairs, you take out of a walkie-talkie and contact someone who is engaged the last mysterious anomalies in the area. I mainly interacted with the park ranger, a sailor and my fellow environmental researcher, each of whom had their own storylines, which reinforced the feeling that there is a whole world of paranormal, and we can all help each other cope with our parts of it. Peace. However, I didn't manage to make friends with the radio DJ, perhaps because I didn't listen to her show at the right time. So yes, it's still possible to miss something. As with the first game, I recommend turning the subtitles so you don't lose track of what people are saying when the game starts to get creepy static or voices disappear on the loading screen. At one point, I stopped at the edge of the screen instead of entering the game because I didn't want to miss the dialogue, and immediately a helpful note appeared telling me that the conversation would continue. Later, I confidently crossed the middle of the screen while a sailor was talking about inexplicable marrying of details. But he was interrupted by the ringing of a payphone. I never knew what he was about to say. The system is still not perfect, but it's definitely better. OXENFREE and its sequel are significant in that they are the type of the horror game that fill the significant gap that they are not horror games at all. They have creepy stuff in them, but may contain traces of nut style, which means you can safely recommend them to people who say they don't like horror games. But in reality, they just don't like bleeding and the feeling of fear of life. While I love horror and replay Silent Hill 2 for fun, I appreciate this middle zone, where it's more about feeling out of your element than experiencing body horror or cosmic fear. This is where games are more likely to surprise. When OXENFREE really comes to the fore, when it starts to undermine your expectations, it's creepy as hell. The way the characters scatter around like a broken dolls is oddly frustrating. Something about these tall, thin, split, akimbo figures just isn't right, and every time I adjust the dial and turn on 93 FM, all goes predicting your future all the time. I'm seized with the genuine chills. Thank you guys for watching this review on this beautiful game.